And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. Our session today, we have an impossible mission on how to mitigate fraud and keep your users safe with the network APIs. We're starting on time now, but we're just going to allow some seconds here for people to join. So go and get yourself a cup of something to drink or I don't know, anything that to get you started and warmed up. All right. I'll start by introducing myself, doing a speaker self description for accessibility. I'm a brunette Latina woman. I have short hair and I'm wearing a purple violet jumper. My name is Amanda Cavallaro. I am a Brazilian developer advocate here at Vonage. I'm Brazilian, but I'm based in the UK, in London, in the UK. And in case you haven't heard of Vonage before, so Vonage has everything for you to build connected applications. We have many APIs. We have APIs for SMS, voice, videos, verify, and some very important APIs that we're going to talk about today as well, the network APIs. So we have quick solutions made easy for you. We have clients and server SDKs in different programming languages. And you can easily integrate your social apps with the applications. You could use Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Viber, in-app applications, and we also have things available on mobile and web. So there's many possibilities for you to build with our APIs. The focus of the conversation today is going to be the network APIs, but if you have any questions at any point, feel free to ask in the chat. I also have someone else joining us today. I'll give him the stage to introduce himself.
Hey, thank you, Amanda. Hello, everyone. I am Alvaro Navarro. I am the guy with glasses and beard and the black T-shirt. So I am Spanish, based in Madrid. I am fully working on network APIs, and I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Amanda, for the introduction.
Thank you very much. So, just for you to have a feeling of what the conversation is going to look like today. So, it's going to be kind of like a podcast, a conversation type of thing going on here. So, you are feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and also throughout the question or at the end. By the end, we will allow some time that there will be an allocated time for questions and answers. But if anything pops up, you want to ask the question, feel free to write in the chat. And at the end, during Q&A, if you want to even show your camera, your mic, or if you just want to type, feel free to join however way you're comfortable doing so. So for today, we're going to start talking about an introduction about the network APIs. We're going to go through the theory. Then we're going to move away from the theory and see how to actually get started, how to log in, how to create your account, how to create an application, where to find what's needed for the network APIs. Then our guy Alvaro here is going to show us some cool demonstrations. So you not only see the theory, how to get started, but real use cases, real examples that you could even go on GitHub, fork it. You could, you could clone it, you could try it yourself. And then, as I said, we're going to finish with some Q&A.
All right, Amanda, I think we should start from the beginning, no? What network APIs? I heard this topic, network APIs everywhere. All the telcos talking about this. So I think it would be amazing if we start by explaining what those APIs are. What do you think?
Absolutely, yes. So the very first time I heard about network APIs, I thought it had to be. I thought it had to do with things like network, things that I studied in university. But in reality, it has nothing to do with that. So these network APIs, they allow application developers to integrate network functionalities from mobile service providers or communication service providers, the network operators, within their applications. So some examples, you could combat fraud by checking SIM swaps, device statuses. You could verify a phone number. You could check the quality on demand. So you can get some connectivity insights. You can do all of this within seconds. So there's many possibilities and things we can do. Maybe you heard of network APIs or 5G APIs. So I hope that answers your question, Alvaro.
Yes, it does. I'm curious to know what kind of APIs do we have in the catalog.
Absolutely. And just I want to make a point here because I don't know if people are going to watch this here or from, I don't know, some time from today. So the APIs that I'm going to talk about, maybe there's going to be even more from what I'm talking here. So make sure to check our developer documentation to be up to date with what's going on. So one of the APIs that we have is the SIM swap API. As the name says, it can help you determine if and when a SIM card linked to a phone number has recently been changed. We also have the number verification API that you can authenticate your users using a mobile data session without the need for OTP, one-time passwords. There is also device location verification API that can help you verify the location of the end user within a specified area using the cellular network positioning. Name very similar as well, device location retrieval API that you can retrieve the last known location of a SIM-enabled device that is connected to the network, also using cellular network positioning. There is also the device status API that you can query a device's roaming and connectivity status. And we also have finally quality on demand that can help you manage your application's traffic to gain more consistent performance from the network. So all these things that I'm talking about, you can see it doesn't have to do with network as one would think. This is more about, the mobile operators network APIs.
Okay, so then if I understood correctly, so the APIs are bound to the operator, right? So I guess there will be some sort of availability for the network APIs depending on where you live, no?
Absolutely. So we have different network APIs that are available in different places and in different environments. So for instance, right now, the ones that we have available in the production environment being that it returns live data from these operators that we're talking about. So we have the SIM swap API in Germany. We have DT, Deutsche Telekom, Telefonica, and Vodafone. And then in Spain, we have Orange, Telefonica, and Vodafone. This is the same for the SIM swap and number verification API. The other APIs that I talked about, they are not available in this production environment.
Okay, so I guess there will be some kind of playground or sandbox or something that can start building right away.
Absolutely. So for you to just getting back here, for you to get started to use this production environment, you actually you require approval from the mobile operators. So there is something that we call the playground, or if you've been developing with us for some time, we also used to call it sandbox. So we have this sandboxed environment where you can start testing right away while you wait to get the approval to use the network APIs in production. So this playground is a safe, isolated environment where you, the developer, can test and interact with these APIs without the approval to start using it. Just to remember, like the end goal of these APIs are not like for hobbyists or like for developers to have fun. There is this playground, this safe environment where you can try, you can test things out, but the ultimate goal is that we do go through the network registry. I'll talk a bit more about this in a bit. But again, we have the playground. Let's have a look here. I'm sharing a table where we can see the playground and the mobile operators that we have available. So again, the same for SIM swap and number verification API. We have in Germany, Vodafone, in Spain, Orange, Telefonica, and Vodafone. And there's also something here that you might see. I'm talking about virtual operators.
Very cool. Sorry, I have a question. So that
Yeah,
means that if my company is based in a country which is not Germany or Spain, I can test APIs waiting until one of the operators from my country is available for the network APIs. That's correct.
you got it right.
Okay.
Yes. So let me talk a bit more. I see people here saying hi in the chat. Yes, people, if you're joining, feel free to share anything where you're joining. If you use this before, we love people interacting with us. So I was just about to talk about the virtual operator. The virtual operator, once you open the Vonage Playground, it's a tool for developers to simulate how the network interactions are while, as I said, you're waiting for access to a live operator. So this one, it provides fake and deterministic API responses for your phone number. And the phone numbers, they start with a +990 country code, not like the real country codes that we have, because this is a fake environment. And then you can test within the sandboxed environment. I'm sharing here, you can see the available network APIs that we have at the moment that you can try. And you can see like all the operators, and the first one is the virtual operator, which is global. As you asked, Alvaro, what if I'm in a country that, like, I'm not in Spain, I'm not in Germany, how can I test? So you can get started right away. I hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. So one important thing that I think is interesting to remember, that in order to get access to this playground and the virtual operator, you don't need approval from the operators. So you can just create an account and start testing the APIs right away. That's super cool.
Super cool. You're right.
All right. So we have been talking about network APIs, what they are, and I think it would be great to to get started. How to I'm interested to learn how to do my first API call. What do I have to do?
Absolutely. Let me just change my screen here. I think that first things first, whenever you have any questions or anything, we have a very good and up-to-date documentation. You can find it on developer.vonage.com. So anything that you want to hear about, may it be network APIs, concepts, guides, how to get started, the good place is always to go back to our developer documentation. And in there, you can search, just a quick view here. You can find about network APIs, other.
Sorry, Amanda, can you increase the font size of your browser? Perfect.
Yeah.
That's
So you
fantastic.
can either search the API by its name. There are also some here that are available for you. You can jump to some of them and see all the things that we have available. But then how do we actually get started? So if we maybe we could share here in the chat the link for folks to get started. If you don't have an account, or you would like to log in, you could go to our dashboard, so dashboard.vonage.com, log in and create an account. I have an account here. I'm going to add my password because I already created, so I would just log in. But if you don't have one, you would go through sign up. You would add everything to sign up for a Vonage account. And by the way, stay tuned in this call, because we're going to give away some coupon codes for you to get some free credits. So anyway, I have an account. I click to log in. I have set for my account to have a two-factor authentication. So once I click to log in, I verify it on my phone. And then I could select SMS or WhatsApp, and after that, you're logged in. So this is how our dashboard looks like. Usually you can see your APIs here, but I'm using a Chrome extension that I created to just hide my API, so you wouldn't be able to see it. So this is how our dashboard looks like. And for many of the applications that I heard, there will be prizes too. Have a look at the chat. We're going to answer more about that. So for you to create an application to use our APIs, we have two concepts. We have the values of the API key and the API secret, and you would find them here at the homepage of our Vonage dashboard. Also, if you want to try the APIs, getting started right away, how to send SMS, make a voice call, these are very cool examples that you can see how they work very quickly, sometimes without even having to set up everything let's say in your ID or anything, just to have a feel of how it looks like. But let's talk about now network API. So if I were to create an application, Alvaro, do you think we can see it well here? Should I increase a bit more?
Yeah, I think if you can increase a little bit the font, that would be great. Yeah, I think that works. Fantastic. Thank you, Amanda.
All right. So here on the left, we can hang on. Now that I made it bigger, it's harder to see. 1 second. So here on the left, I would search for application. Here, applications. Under build and manage, you would see applications. If you have ever created an application before, you would see them listed below here. If not, you would click to create a new application. Within that, you can give it a name for you to recognize them within your list of created applications, and then we could create a network APIs test. And then you can also see your API key here. And many times when we are building applications, we might need to authenticate with JWTs. I'm just going to talk a bit fast about this because Alvaro is going to talk a bit more about JWTs. So for some of the applications, you have to be, you must be signed to use them. So it's important for you to generate public and private keys. Once you click this button here, a private key file is downloaded to your machine. And then we have also different capabilities of the APIs that you can use. When we're talking about network APIs, something very important is the network registry. So this account that I'm showing here today, this one is a test account, so I don't have access. I haven't been through the application process, so this is how it probably would look like for you starting right now. So you have the playground, as I talked to you about. And we also have production. And we have to register for access to get started if we want to work with the production environment here. To hear more, you would click this link here. I think I already opened it to make things easier. And then there's basically three parts to using the process of applying to get access to the network registry. The first one is to add a business profile. You enter the details of your organization, you add the business profile, and then you create a network application profile. And the final one is to connect your application. Also, there is a link here at the top if you'd like to learn more. It's explained more in depth. So there is the network registry, the process that I just talked to you about, how to add the business profile, and if you have any questions on how any of the fields, what they're asking and where to find them, how to create, how to connect your Vonage application, as I just showed you. So if you want to read more at your own time, we have very good documentation for you here as well. After we would decide everything that we want to do here, we would click to generate an application, a new application. Hang on. Playground. And then depending on the API that you select, good thing it didn't go through so I can talk about this. Depending on the API that you are selecting, for instance, the number verification, you have to add a redirect URI, the QOD, there is also event status callback, and the verify, there is also an event status callback. So you would decide which one of these that you would like to use, and after you chose which one you would like to use, you would click to generate a new application. So this is how it looks like to get everything started. After you click to create your application, you can also see more items about your application. For instance, the application ID, which at times, depending on the API that you're using, could also be one of the fields which is expected. And then let's say for today that we are going to share some coupon codes. If you go here on the menu on the left in billing, and then you click coupon, you can enter the coupon code that we are going to give out today. So this is how you would add and submit it. I think that's a good overview to get started. Alvaro, do you think there's something else we should talk about?
No, I think that was great. Well,
Just maybe one more thing, maybe that I can say, because I showed how you can start it from creating an application. But let's say that you wanted to see how the where to find the network registry. So under Build and Manage, you could go here and click on Network Registry. You could also go from here, and then there is the first tab, Network Registration. And as you added everything, you're waiting for approval, you could go to the next tab and see more about the network API playgrounds that I talked about. And you can configure up to 5 test numbers to explore and to use more. And then you can also use, as I said, the virtual operator that starts with 990. So you can create an application and you can start testing right away, even if you don't have the network registry approval yet.
yeah, good thing about the sandbox is that you can, sorry, the sandbox, the playground, because we changed the name. The
Yeah.
good thing about the playground is that thanks to this allow list functionality, you can test with real data in the playground environment. So you can add here the number that you want to be testing with, and only this number will be available in the playground. So all your API all your API calls will have to use that the number you have introduced in the playground. That's one thing. The other possibility is use the virtual operator, but you don't have to go through the allow list process. So there are two different things, and but both of them working for the playground. So yeah, that's great.
Cool. So this was now I think you have a better idea of what the network APIs are for everyone here. And again, if something's not clear, if you have more questions, feel free. The chat is here for us. So now that I gave you this theoretical overview, I think Alvaro, can you introduce some of our available APIs?
Yes, totally. Let's have some fun with API, shall we? Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Let me see if I can do that here. Screen. Okay. All right. Can you see my screen? Yes, I think so. Perfect. All right. So
Yes.
thank you, Amanda. We are gonna start with one of my favorite APIs, which is number verification. So the first thing we're gonna do is go into the developer portal, and we are gonna click here network APIs. As Amanda explained before, you will get access to all the APIs. And for this first demo, I'm gonna focus on this one, number verification. So we can click here on the docs. You will see what this API is about. As Amanda explained before, the idea of this API is to verify users of your platform. So imagine you have a service that use a mobile application, and you want to verify that the user who is trying to log in is actually the user behind the device, right? So you can use this API as a two-factor authentication to imagine you have your session already open and you don't want to log in again. You can use this API to keep your session open, etc. So these are the typical use cases. So as I said, this is really cool because it's totally transparent for the user because the API is using the mobile data to verify the user. That's super cool because usually that happens behind the scenes. So you have to enter a code or you don't have to approve anything, right? So in order to get started, let's have a look to the API reference here. The number verification has one single endpoint. This one is verify, okay? And this API is a little bit special because this is what we call the front-end authentication API. So if we go back, there is a nice guide here. It's called Client Authentication, which is teaching us how to implement, how to use the API, okay? So the idea of the API is that the API is going to be integrated on backend side, okay? But the whole authentication process is going to be started by the mobile application, by the user, which makes sense because we want to verify the identity of that user, right? So the idea is the following: we have here a sequence diagram, and we have different steps. So the first step is when the user is clicking on login, for example, and we are sending this authentication request to our backend. All right. So the backend is receiving that request. It's going to perform some internal API calls that we have to implement. We're going to see it in a moment. And the idea is that the user the mobile phone has to send what we call the authentication authorization URL in order to prove that this data, this URL, is sent from that device from the user. Okay, so that URL has to be sent through mobile data 5G. All right, so that's the main idea of this API. So as I said, everything starts with the user clicking on login or verify or whatever we want to call it, and then our backend is receiving the information from the mobile phone. Usually, it's the phone number because that's exactly what we want to verify. We have something internally called network enablement here on the second step. This network enablement is basically setting up the whole environment for the operator to say, hey, we are starting an authentication process from a user. This is how we are going to do it. And basically, this API, network enablement API, is returning the URL that the mobile phone has to send to the operator. Okay, so that's the response. We respond to the mobile application, and then the mobile phone sends this authorization request that goes directly to the operator. Okay, so once the operator receives that, it's going to send what we call the authorization code. That authorization code is going to be sent as a callback to our backend, and we are going to exchange that code for a token to finally perform the API call to number verification API. And finally, we're going to answer back to the mobile, say, hey, this is their user or this is not the user. Okay, so looks like a lot of API calls, but it's not that difficult. Let's have a look to the demo. So for the demo, I have different things here. I have this is my mobile phone here, the real one. This is the device that I have here. I'm sharing the screen. I have Android Studio because I built this application using Kotlin. And I have a console here, which is going to be the console for running the backend. Okay, so let's have a look. First of all, before running the application, I need to do something. I need to show you something. Is the following. This is the dashboard. This is my account. So if I go to applications, you see here a couple of applications. This is the one I have prepared for the demo today, Network APIs demo. And we have several different information here. We're going to need two things for starting the authorization with the number verification API. The first one is the application ID, and the second one is this one. So when we edit the application, you see here a button say generate public and private key. So we need to generate that private key. And with the application ID and the private key, we can generate the JWT authorization token. Okay, so that's the authorization or the token that we are going to need for starting the whole authentication process. Okay, so if I scroll down, as Amanda explained before, you see here I have my network registry capabilities enabled, and I have selected playground here because we're going to be using the playground with fake phone numbers with the virtual operator. And we have something here called redirect URI. Okay, so this is something because our backend has to receive this callback. Our backend must be reachable for the operator, right? Because the operator is going to send this callback to our backend. So you have two different possibilities here. You can deploy your backend in, wherever, in the cloud or wherever you want. Or maybe something easier is if you are running your backend locally in your computer, you can create a tunnel. The tunnel is basically opening a public URL that the operator can use to redirect your callbacks. And this is exactly what I'm doing. So this is the tunnel that I have created. It's called like this with the callback at the end. And all the callbacks, all the API calls coming from this URL are going to be redirected to my local computer. Okay. Cool. So we have the private key. I have the application ID, the capabilities, network registry capabilities enabled. I think we are good to go. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I have the server. The server is a Node application built with JavaScript. So I'm going to run my server locally here. Before that, I'm going to create a token just to make sure that my existing token has not expired. You have different possibilities for the token. Once you have the private key and the application ID, you can, there is a website, is this one, developervonage.com, JWT, and you can paste your private key and your application ID, and you can generate a token. And you can even select the validity, or you can say, okay, this one is going to be for, I don't know, 10 days or whatever you want. Okay, that's one option. The other option is use the Vonage tool, something that you can install like this. If I recall correctly, that's the way to install the tool.
Yeah, you can also, sorry to chime in, you can also edit globally with the -G
Oh yeah.
tag.
Thank you,
To
Amanda.
install it globally. Yeah.
Exactly. So I have it already installed on my computer. So I'm gonna skip this step. But once you have it, you can do something like Vonage, and you will have a nice output here, so you can manage your applications, your tokens, etc. So something you can do is, first of all, you need to set up your authentication credentials. So basically, it's, hey, this is my API key, my secret, my private key, and my application ID. The tool is gonna store that in a file. I'm not going to do that because otherwise I will rebuild my credentials. But once you set your credentials, you can do something like JWT. Oh, sorry. And then you have different commands. The important one is this one, create. So you can do create here, and you get the JWT token. All right. So that's the token that we can use. In the case of the backend, the token is exported as an environment variable. So I have a command here which is called JWT, which is exporting this value for me. So I'm ready to start my server. Okay. I'm gonna clean the screen so we can see the messages. All right. Cool. So we have here the front, the mobile application. We have the backend. And basically what we are going to do is I'm going to reproduce all these steps. All right. So this is the fake login screen that I have created. So if I click on login, you see here.
Alvaro,
Yes.
that I see that starts with 990. Does it have anything to do with what we were talking about before, that number?
That is exactly the idea. So I'm using here the virtual operator. So this is it's a fake phone number. So everything that started with 990 is going to be redirected to the virtual operator. Okay, so it's not going to be redirected to a real operator. And so okay, does it answer your question? Okay, cool. All right, so let's have a look to the console here. We have several things. These are all the messages coming from the mobile application and also from the virtual operator. So we have the step one. The step one is basically receiving or send out the request to the backend. So the backend is receiving the phone number that we want to verify. We make the API call to network enablement, and this is what the network enablement API is returning. So basically, this is the URL that the mobile device has to send using 5G data in order to verify the identity of the user. Okay. So, okay, the mobile application has sent this URL, and then we have step number 5, which is the callback here. So we are here in the callback coming from the operator. In this case, is the virtual operator. And we are getting the code, authorization code. And in the step number 6, we are exchanging this code for the access token. The access token is huge, as you can see here. And finally, we are using this token to make the API call to number verification. And number verification is returning true, which means that the user is who is supposed to be. We are returning this response back to the mobile application, and we are printing this message here, authentication successful. All right. Because we are using the virtual operator, there is something really cool here. If we go to the documentation on the concepts, there is something called virtual operator, and you can check the different values in case we want to play with the API. So depending on the last digit, whether this is even or odd, the API call is going to return true or false. That means if we change the last digit for a 7, and I do this again, I should get a false response from the backend. Okay, here we are. Device phone number verified equal false. All right. This is the way we can integrate the API in our system using the virtual operator. So far, the virtual operator is, we have been using the virtual operator for free because there is no cost for using this operator. And then at this point, once my implementation is ready, what I can do is go back here. I can go back to the dashboard. I can click on network registry, and here in the playground, and I can do something like, okay, so I'm going to test it with my Spanish number. I can put here my number. This is not my number, but this is like a test. All right. So I can introduce my number, and I come back here to my demo, and I can change that for my number. All right. So I can do that like, okay, now we are ready. I'm going to test with my real number. All right. Because even though you are using the playground, you are using a real operator behind. this has a cost. Okay, this is not free because it's not the virtual operator anymore. All right, does make sense so far? Cool. All right.
Yes, there was a question in the chat about RS256 being AUG JWT. So yeah, that has to do with the algorithm.
Yep. Correct. You talking? You mean here, or not sure if I'm following the question.
I'm not sure where exactly Mohammed saw it, but it could have been creating the JWT, or there's different parts maybe in the
Okay.
documentation. But yeah, it has to do with that, with the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right, so that's number verification. I think we can move forward with the next network API. Okay, so
Absolutely. So the next API that we have is SimSwap.
correct. So these are the two APIs that we have up and running with real and virtual operators.
Mhm.
So again, I'm gonna go to the documentation here, docs. As Amanda, you explained before, this API, the
Yeah.
purpose of this API is to check whether there was a SIM swap in your SIM card and when that happened. All right. So again, I'm gonna go through the super quickly through the API reference. In this API has two different endpoints. The first one is to check the whether there was a SIM swap or not. So basically, the API is returning true or false. All right. And the second endpoint is this one: retrieve SIM swap date, which is all right. So we know there was something happening. Okay, can you give me the timestamp or about when did that happen? All right, so basically it's returning the timestamp, sorry, in case you want to use it. So this API is super interesting because imagine you are doing two-factor authentication to recover your account, for example, with your bank or any other critical service. So imagine that there was a SIM swap attack on your phone. So receiving that code for two-factor authentication is not safe anymore, right? So it would be nice to check that by the service. In this case, it's going to be the bank. Uh, hey, there was something suspicious in the last, I don't know, 1 week, for example. In case the API returns true, we can stop the operation, we can stop everything, and maybe block the account until we get in touch with the user to confirm that it is safe to keep performing bank operations with the mobile application. All right, so that would be a very interesting showcase. All right, so for this one, for this API, this is not using client authentication anymore because everything is done on backend side. So we can, if we go
Alvaro,
here,
just to understand this API better, when you say SIM swap, does it have to do with removing the SIM card, swapping the SIM card from my
that's a
phone?
good
Like,
question.
what is this SIM swap?
The SIM swap idea is when you link the mobile phone with the new SIM card. So basically, when you have a copy of your SIM card and you put it on your mobile device, your mobile phone is linked to that SIM. That information is sent to the operator, like, hey, we are setting up a new device with a new SIM card. That is exactly the date that the API is going to return in the second endpoint. Okay, so that is what it means SIM swap. All right, so link the phone number with a new SIM card. All right. So as I said before, this API is using server authentication. Everything is implemented on backend side. So we can take a look to the documentation. Looks easier than number verification, right? So for this demo, I'm gonna use something different. Instead of using a server, etc. So I'm gonna use a tool. I don't know if you know Bruno. It's like an open source alternative to Postman. I've been using that for a while. I think I'm very happy so far. So yeah, I have a collection of network APIs. And so if we go back to the documentation, in order to use this API, we need to do two things. We need to make a OIDC request, which is returning a response with authorization ID, and then taking that ID, this authorization ID, and request a token, an access token. All right, and the same way that we did before with number verification. Once we have the token, we can use the token as a header to send the API call. Okay. All right, so let's have a look here. I have two APIs here. Sorry, two, yeah, in the collection, I have the Cavallaro authentication. The first one is the OIDC request. And something important to do here is that these APIs, well, actually, number verification use it too, but we didn't cover it in the previous explanation, is something called scope. All right, that's important because that's gonna set the permissions that we are requesting to the operator to say, hey, I want to use this API call is going to request check the SIM swap, or is requesting retrieval the date of the SIM swap. All right, so that specific operation has like a permission behind, and that is what we call scopes. You can read
But
more.
can I like see whenever it happened, like 5 years ago? Can I see when the swaps happened?
I think there is a limit depending on the operator. I think depending on the if I recall correctly, for example, Telefonica has a limit of 1 year, something like that. I don't really remember. There is a limit of time that you can check the SIM swap date, which makes sense because probably you don't want to check like 5 years ago. Probably it's going to return true because probably you change your phone or whatever. All right, so this is the list of scopes, as I was saying. In case of SIM swap, we have two endpoints. Check is going to use this scope, and retrieve date is going to use this scope. All right. So if we go back here to Bruno, I have set the list of scopes depending on the API. So if I click on this one, it's going to set. I'm going to check here the documentation. So it's going to set a environment called, a variable called scope with exactly the value that is going to be sent in the API call, in the authentication call. All right. If I click on another API, I know device status roaming. If I click on configure, it's going to set a different scope. All right. Roaming read. So, and here we have network APIs. This is the environment, which is basically setting the token, the phone number that you're going to be using, and these two empty variables that are used to exchange values between API calls. All right, so let's do the first call, the OICD request. If I click here, the token has expired. So for that, I'm going to do the following. I go to the console. I am going to cancel this, and I can use my Vonage. Sorry, create. We are creating a new token, and I'm going to copy this to my clipboard. I go back to Bruno, and I'm going to edit my environment here. I delete this one because it's not valid anymore. I set the new token, save, and then I repeat again. All right, now it works. So this is the endpoint of the authorized call. And we are returning here something called auth request ID. This is the ID that we have to set in the next API call. So here the access token, basically, if we check the body, we are sending the request from the previous call, and the header is sending the token again. So I click here, and again, I'm having this huge token similar to the previous API. And now we are ready. Sorry, I made a mistake. I have set this scope, which is grown. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go to the check endpoint, generate a new ID, generate a new token. Cool. And now I can finally do the API call, and I'm getting swap equal false. So if we check the body, basically what we send is the phone number, which is this one coming from the environment, and the mass age, which is the number of hours. In this case, is 10 days that we want to check whether there was a SIM swap or not. Okay, the header is using the token from the previous call. Same way, we can go to request. I can switch to the other scope, retrieve date. We generate a new request ID, the token, and then the API call here. All right. And then it says the swap happened on the 29th of January this year. Okay. And we can even have the date. As I mentioned before, this is using the virtual operator. So if you go back to the documentation here, you can play with the values. You can say, all right, so if the number, if the phone number is like this and max age is bigger than 500, swap is going to return true. Otherwise, it's going to return false. And you can even try with if the phone number ends by 99, you are going to get an error because you can integrate that casuistic in your implementation. All right. Cool. So that's SimSwap.
Very cool. Yeah, I haven't seen this Bruno before. I have used Insomnia and Postman. Are they like similar?
Yeah, it's very similar. So this is open source. There are some paid functionalities in case you want to import your specification and you want to design APIs. But for the basic functionality like performing or maintaining your collection, sending API calls, etc., I think works fine.
Very good. There is a question here. Maybe we could respond to it in the documentation showing the guide for server authentication. So using network APIs. So the question is, why do we need to use OIDC here? That's not the same as authentication flow as verification number API. So I think here, using network APIs, we have a guide that has the flow.
We have
this one. Yeah.
This one.
Yeah.
So the question is why we're using this?
Why do we need to use this? Isn't that the same as authentication flow as verification number API? I think that, let me know, Mohammed, if that's what it is. Why are we using this? Is this what you would like to know? In the meantime, I think, yes, Alvaro, yes.
So the idea, for example, if you think how we implemented authentication on number verification is basically authentication code flow. So you get you send the challenge, you get the code via callback, and then you exchange that code for a token. This is the authorization code flow. Okay, and in this one is different. This one is using a different approach. This has been designed by the Camara standard, which is the OpenID request at the beginning, and then what is called the CIBA request for getting the token. This is how the API is designed. So I'm sorry, I don't have any further explanation. Does it make sense, Mohammed? Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so you talked about number verification, SimSwap, but do we have any more network APIs?
Yes, so we have more APIs. This one, these other APIs work only on with the virtual operator. So if we go back here to the network APIs list, we have something called device status, which is returning the status of the one device, like whether it's on roaming, it is different status, etc. I can quickly perform a demo here. So let's say that we want to check the roaming status of a device. So again, we have to go through all the authentication process. So request the ID, we get the token, and finally we go here and we check the roaming. Okay, and it says false because we're using the virtual operator again. So you can go to documentation and you can play with the different values according to the according to the operator. What is this here? Right, for roaming, depending on the last two digits, you get true or false, depending on the input of the API call. All right, so this is one of the endpoints. The device status has. There is another one. We have connectivity status, which is basically we provide the phone number and it's saying whether we are connected to 5G or not. So we can use Bruno quickly to do this API call. And then we get the token, and then we get the connectivity. Okay. Oops. It's this one. Sorry, I didn't switch the scope. Here, and then we get the connectivity. Okay, not connected in this case. All right. So that's this is how the endpoint works. Very simple. So you pass the phone number, and it's providing you information coming from the operator. Okay, and we have more APIs. So we have two APIs for working with location. So you can verify whether, so you provide like latitude and longitude, and is verifying whether that device is in that range. That's going to be the location verification. So basically what it does is, all right, so here you have my area. It's going to be a circle. It's going to be, this is latitude, longitude. That's going to be the center. And it's basically with a radius of 2,000 meters is defining the circle. And with that phone number, and it's returning, whether this mobile phone was in this area, and when was the last time that the phone was within this area. This API only works with virtual operator at the moment, but yeah, so that's something that will be available in the future. And finally, we have I'm gonna go here.
Yeah, we have device status, device location. Yeah.
Location verification, and then finally location retrieval,
Yeah.
which is the opposite. So here you have the phone number, and it's returning me the location of the device. All right, that's the opposite of the previous API. And then we have more. We have a QAD, which is basically modifying the bandwidth of how one device is connected to the network. Imagine, for example, an emergency situation that you need a 5G network because your device is critical. You can use that API to modify that bandwidth to have like priority versus the rest of the devices around, so you get connectivity. All right.
Yeah, that one is even more special, like when you're dealing with inconsistent network
Yeah.
conditions. So you can set like the quality that you want on demand.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna turn on the light because I realized that it's pretty dark here. Sorry about that.
That's fine. Yeah, so I'll just talk a bit more about QoD maybe. So you can select the level of performance. Let's say that you want more reliability, lower latency. So you can define the quality that you need depending on the environment where you are.
Exactly. That's the purpose. And with that, that's the overview for the APIs that we have in our catalog.
Yeah, before we forget, I think we said something about the coupon code to give away today.
Yes. And let me share that coupon with you all. I have it here.
Yes, so remember where to find it, folks. You would go on the Vonage dashboard, and then you would go on the left on billing coupon, and then you would add this coupon code that we are giving away today. And again, depending if you're watching a recording of this code might not work then.
Cool.
Okay, everyone. So as we were chatting here, like Alvaro was showing us all sorts of amazing stuff. I shared a bunch of links here with you, but if you would like to hear more, we have blog posts, we have videos, we have content to be. We have a very good documentation. So now that you have the theory, I think you know where to go from here. And also, if you have questions that you might not find in the documentation or anything, you can keep in touch with us we on the developer community Slack, or we are on X. We are in different platforms, so wherever you are, you can probably find us. And now I think it's time for questions. I know that you were asking questions along the way as we were talking here. We still have about 7 minutes left. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat, or if you would like to share your camera, share your mic, however way it works for you. And even other questions, not only related to network APIs. If you'd like to hear more about our other APIs, share your experiences, like the floor is yours. We have some time for you now, right, Alvaro?
Absolutely. All right. Looks like we don't have any questions.
Yeah, maybe they're typing. We'll see.
Okay.
So maybe as they are showing, maybe we could show our last slide on where they can find us, Alvaro, the keep in touch slide.
Yes, this one.
Yes, that one.
Yes, we have a Slack channel. We have a community of developers on Slack. Do you have the? I don't have the link to join the community, by the way.
I'll get it right now for them.
Okay, fantastic. And as Amanda said, we are on different platforms. We are on X. We have a blog. where we post super interesting content from time to time about network APIs. So go and check it out. And of course, check the documentation if you find any typo problem or you believe something is clear. Please feel free to reach out to us in case you are testing or you are following the tutorials that we have on the blog and you find any difficulties. Again, reach out to us. We'll be happy to help you.
Yes, also, if you're on GitHub, we have Vonage community where we have many things for you to try. We have tutorials, we have projects that you can clone and you can get started, and many of them they're accompanied by a blog post that explain to you step by step how to do it. Can you write the coupon code again? Yes, 25VKQMF10. And Alvaro is also sharing the the slide. And please do share your feedback on the green button under the screen if you can for us.
Yes, feedback is super welcome.
Thank you. Albert, in your presentation, you mentioned that you're doing things with Kotlin, with Android Studio. Is it only available for like mobile? If I want to do on web, could I do it as well?
Good question. Yeah, I have a demo using a web application, which is basically doing the same thing as the mobile application. You have it on Vonage community. So the idea is exactly the same. So you have a client, but in this case, is based on JavaScript front application, and is doing the same thing as the mobile application, right? So it's starting the authentication with the backend, getting the authorization URL, and sending the URL to the operator. Everything done from the browser. But the typical, I would say, the typical situation is using a mobile application. That would be I would say the normal use case. But of course, website is also possible.
Awesome. So I think that was our session today. And I learned a bit more about our mission impossible and how to mitigate fraud and keep your users safe. We have more sessions coming up, so make sure that you stay up. They're not going to be about network APIs, but about other APIs that we have as well. So we'd love to see you there.
Yeah. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.